We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. We, the people, are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. There's a clear cause and effect here that is as neat and predictable as a law of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts.
Uh-oh, what'd I do here? There we go. Let's do this. All right, guys, welcome to Candid Conversation. We want to welcome Dr. Jeff Coggin, Independent, Tennessee, House 20, if I'm saying that correctly, right?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good, brother. Looking forward to tonight and just getting the conversation started. Hopefully that will go for the foreseeable future.
It's gonna go, I promise.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing great, man. How about y'all?
All right, doing good. Doing good.
That is good to hear.
Bunch of heritage folks hanging out together tonight. That's not bad.
Hey, that's true. Very, very true. So we'll go ahead and explain real quick. Jeff, you got what we say 60 minutes, 1 hour. Okay. And so it's your show, man. So I won't say another word until you generate a question.
Well, I tell you what, I hope you have a question. Well, definitely, Robert and Brian, thank y'all so much for letting me come on. We've obviously have met before now and have had a chance to meet in person, kind of get to know each other a little bit and share some common background out at Heritage High School and the Mountaineer family. So that's good. So what I want to do is just kind of treat this as a starting conversation. Like I said, about an hour tonight, and then hopefully if y'all will give me more time, we'll extend the conversation. I feel like it's very important, me running for a public office that belongs to the citizens, that every one of our voters in Blount County in District 20. And District 20, if you think about Blount County, it's broken up into two Tennessee House districts. District 20, which is pretty much the northern part of the county, Friendsville, Alcoa, Maryville, some Rockford. It's kind of the urban area, where District 8 is more coming down toward Heritage, toward Townsend, more of the rural area, if you will, outside of the cities. So there's two House districts. So I'm running for House District 20. And so definitely want to share a little bit about where my background is and why I decided to run. I am not a native Tennessean. One of those things that I got here as quickly as I could. I wished I could have got here a lot sooner. My wife and I, we've been married 34 years. Her name is Kay, and I think Robert and let's say Brian, I think y'all met Kay probably at some events. Without a doubt, I married up. She is a Biloxi, Mississippi girl. She comes from a good family where they love Jesus. Her mom and dad, she was from a big Catholic family, so she's the youngest. Her mom and dad were kind of getting toward more grandparent age, or at least middle age, when she come along. And her mom and dad taught her some things about her faith, about being good character and stuff, that she has been working with me for 34 years. So I'm very blessed to have her as a partner. She is not a fan of politics. I can just tell you that as we start talking about this conversation. Kay supports me in everything I do. She's been around the world with the military. She has supported me through 2 deployments. She has been an incredible mom to our 2 sons and a great, incredible grandmother to our 20-month-old first grandbaby. But she hates politics because she was told at an early age, she goes, by her older brother, by her mom and dad, who had seen some ugliness of Mississippi Gulf Coast politics and then just national politics, is that you can't believe pretty much anything you hear and only about half of what you see. So she has always kind of wanted to steer away from politics. She's under the belief that, we're so hard broke that really it's almost impossible to change. The problem is I'm one of these utopic guys who believes that if we don't try to do something to change the way we're going, then who will? So
That's right.
she always keeps me kind of grounded. She lets me pursue areas that I feel passionate about. She's very supportive in what I do, but like I said, she's just not a fan of politics, and quite frankly, I'm not either. Uh, so I guess just start from foundation of a little bit of who I am early. I grew up in North Mississippi outside Tupelo. So if you know Elvis Presley, I grew up right outside of where Elvis Presley's from. So pretty big Elvis fan. Can't say I'm the biggest Elvis fan, but I definitely grew up from that area. Grew up in a broken household where unfortunately alcohol was a big part of our family dynamics. My dad was a hard worker, but when I was growing up, man, he would start drinking from the time he left Tupelo where he worked at. By the time he got to 15 miles where we lived at, he was unfortunately kind of getting to the not so good side of my dad. And so we grew up, my sister and I, seeing a lot of bad stuff. So I always thought when I was growing up, I'd watch shows like Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons. And I was thinking, man, how did I get so unlucky to grow up in such a broken household, so dysfunctional, when I watch these shows and dad loves mom, everybody holds her hand around around the kitchen table. And I'm going, man, I wished I had some of that when I was growing up. But fast forward, I'm 58 years old now, and you realize how God puts you in situations that you realize it was preparing you for the things that he wants you to do in your life. And mine has been military, a big part of it, but another part of it's education. And I work with a lot of children, both here in Blount County and at some previous locations, that I realize there's a lot of brokenness in our nation. And these children, these young people deserve better homes. They deserve to grow up in better areas. But quite frankly, as adults, a lot of us adults, we're letting them down. We're not being good role models. We're not being the moms and dads we need to be. We're not forming the foundation to help them be successful. And you know who I hold responsible for that? That is our leaders. Our nation, John Maxwell, who writes a lot of books on leadership, said everything rises and falls on leadership. And I believe starting with our highest office, President of the United States, through all the different state levels down to our local levels, we must be role models for the next generation. Because if we're not role models for them, then they're not going to know what right looks like. They're going to grow up and just repeat what they've seen in their home, in their community, by their leaders. And here we go again. And so as we celebrate our 250th anniversary of our nation, our Declaration of Independence, I really think, brothers, we've got to figure out, can we change course? Because I can tell you, as a veteran, I'm not happy. As a grandfather, as a dad, as a husband, I'm not happy with what I'm seeing, because what I see is the right, the left, all they do is argue. All they do is backbite. And at the end of the day, I really believe, I hate to say that they're both in bed together. Big money has come in. Big money is corrupting the way decisions are made or need to be made, because at the end of the day, we're talking about citizens who should be considered the people who hold the highest office. There's a quote that says, the citizen holds the highest office in the land. But these public officials, these elected officials, think that they are king and queen and rulers of the minions. And we've got to flip that narrative back the way it should be. And that's where the citizens' voice matters. And it's all citizens, not based upon political party or ideology or skin color or your beliefs, non-beliefs, all citizens. So why am I running for Tennessee House Seat 20? Is because I don't like what I'm seeing. I've been a leader for a long time in the U.S. military, And I believe if you're going to change something, you need to step up and step out and do something about it. And I'm glad to see other people starting to do that. You know, we're talking about Matt Snow, who's a fellow military veteran. And I know last night on y'all's show, he stated that he was running as a write-in independent for the Blount County Highway Superintendent position. And I love that because, as I was talking a little bit before the show, we've got 17 slots coming up in our county general election on 6 August. They're uncontested. And that's a foul. That's a foul. That's absolutely a foul. It's broken because one choice equals no choice.
Right.
And we need to give every citizen chance to make some decisions. Now, this requires the citizens to do something. Number one, citizens have got to get off the couch and they've got to start voting. You know, turnout in voting is terrible. And that's not just here in Blount County, but that's across our nation. The numbers of the total eligible voters and the actual people who show up to the booth is just such a small number. So the only way we're going to change anything, if you don't like what you're seeing, is you've got to go vote. We got to get young voters to the ballot booth. We got to get folks who have never voted or who are stopped voting, and we got to get them to come vote. Because if the people will turn out and vote their conscience, we're going to see some change in our country. So to say all that is, so my background comes from growing up in a tough situation. Could have been a lot worse. I know a lot of my students, you know, they grew up in a lot worse condition, but it defined who I was. My faith, I don't ever remember going to church with my mom and dad, maybe one time when I was growing up, but thanks to my grandparents, they introduced me to Jesus, and I started a journey that really until about 4 years ago, it was continuing to grow in my faith. You know, I had head knowledge, but I didn't have a submitted heart to my Lord and Savior. And about 4 years ago, I said, you know, I can't do it on my own. I've got to go all in. Either I'm in or I'm out. And so I, at that point, said, hey, you know, Jesus, I'm going to turn my life over to you and let you guide it. And you know what, gentlemen, in the past 4 years, my life has been more peaceful. I haven't had the worries that I used to carry. There's a peace without understanding that I don't even know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it other than the Holy Spirit has come into my life. And it doesn't mean I don't have challenges and the bad days and some things, but man, I've got this peace that I just cannot understand. And it's also a sense of being more bold. You know, I think a lot of people are nervous about being bold, about doing what's right. And I get it. You know, people don't want to mess up their employment, their career. They're afraid if they say something, it could hurt their employment. They're afraid if they put something on Facebook or social media, maybe their friends won't like them. Or if they take a bold stand that they'll be ostracized or be retaliated against. And all that is very possible. But what I have found through my own submission to King Jesus is I have a boldness to say, listen, I don't get my happiness from likes on social media. I don't define my happiness from other human beings. I don't look for based on how much money or how big my house is. I have this eternal peace. So that is definitely, my faith is a huge part of it. So y'all guys wearing hats. So Brian, I was telling you about, I don't normally wear hats indoors, but that would be one hat I'll share with you right now. This is my faith hat. So I will say that one is very important. I'll put this one on right here and say a veteran hat. You know, I've been, like I said, 40 years pretty much wearing the United States Air Force uniform. And it started when I was 18. Didn't really think about the military when I was in high school. My role models were my teachers and coaches. And I knew you had to have a college degree and you had to be able to do certain things to become a teacher and coach, but we couldn't afford to go to school. This was before the internet. We didn't know anything about grants and scholarships. But fortunately, I met a guy who was a retired master sergeant in the Air Force, and he started talking about the Air Force and how it could pay for college and how it took care of his family and how he had a good quality of life. And man, scared to death, I went to the recruiter there in Tupelo, walked in the door, didn't even know what rank the guy was. He was an Air Force recruiter. And he started talking to me, and he goes, "You can sign up for 6 years, and we'll give you 2 stripes and a little extra money, or you can sign up for 4 years and come in as the lowest rank in E1." And I said, "Man, 6 years is forever to an 18-year-old. I'll sign up for 4." So 4's turned into 40. In fact, pretty much this time 40 years ago is when I went to the recruiter, the Air Force recruiter. And that included 25 years of active duty, both in the Air Force, and I spent 4.5 years in the active guard down in Gulfport, Mississippi at the Combat Readiness Training Center as an active guardsman in the Air Guard. So as we talk about McGee Tyson, I've worked with Tennessee when I was down in Gulfport. We used to get Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville come in. Absolute best state I ever worked with was Tennessee Guardsmen when they would come down to Gulfport, Mississippi and bring their jets down and spend a couple of weeks with us. So anyway, that was my first introduction to Tennessee Air National Guard.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was neat. So with that being said, retired at 25 years of active duty. I had 5.5 years enlisted time, started working on my degree, finished my degree, went to officer training school, and then wanted to fly jets because you know what really also got me excited? 40 years ago, right now, the movie Top Gun came out. If you remember,
Yes.
40 years ago, Top Gun came out, and that show kind of got me excited. I had never been in an airplane, but boy, I like the music. I like the fast jets. I like the motorcycles. It seemed cool to me. So when I was enlisted and working on my degree, I started taking my pilot's license, started flying, and ended up getting my pilot's license. And when I finished my degree, I went to officer training school, and they said, "Hey, you're not going to become a pilot because we got too many pilots and not enough airplanes." And they said, "You're going to become a financial officer, a budget officer, a comptroller." And I'm like, "Oh man, that does not sound like what I want to do." But here's how God was working it. For 19 years, I was a money guy handling taxpayer dollars for 19 years. And every year, you know what they told me, guys? They said, if you misappropriate $1 of a taxpayer's money, you're going to prison. And that stuck with me, that this is the taxpayers' hard-earned money that they could use in their house to take care of their babies, to take care of their family. And if we're going to be given the honor to steward their money, we better do it right. So, guys, you better believe I'm unhappy with the way our money's being handled.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
So why did they hold you in service to such a high standard, but it's not the same standard when it comes to politicians, if I say that correctly, that are in charge of our taxpayer money?
Yeah. And you know, that's a great question because those same public servants are required to file non-disclosure agreements and all that. The problem is they're in such high positions when they mess us over with the money, no one's above them to hold them responsible because they own the jail, right? They own the law enforcement. And so it's a two-tier system, right? It's the elites who should be held at the same or higher standard as us, the average everyday individuals, but because again they own the gold and the keys to the system, they're not. So bottom line is, you're right. They should be held responsible if they misappropriate funds, if they misallocate funds, if they squander funds. They should be forced to be held to be investigated, and if they're found guilty, then they should be dealt with, either reimbursing and or prison time, because that's exactly what we would have to deal with.
So yeah.
Go down the road here and bounce a check. You know what I mean?
I know, brother. I mean, bottom line, they'll be knocking your door down over $10. If somebody spends $10 of our money, nobody is going after them. So So 19 years of handling money. And again, there was parts of it I enjoyed. I enjoyed the leadership. I enjoyed some of the things that being the money guy, I got to see a lot of the way the U.S. military operates, because we had a saying that nothing goes until the money flows. And being the money guy, I got to go to a lot of different missions, both at the bases and when I was deployed. I spent a tour in Afghanistan. I was with the first rotation of NATO into Kabul, Afghanistan, back in 03, 04. And I was the first budget officer for NATO into that area. And then about 4 years later, 2008, 2009, I spent a year in Iraq, 6 months with 18th Airborne out of Fort Bragg. I was the deputy comptroller, so I was the number 2 money guy. And then 6 months with First Corps out of Fort Lewis. So I spent a year with the Army, learned a lot of Army speak. We were managing a $14 billion budget. We were paying for everything on the Operation Iraqi Freedom. We handled all the money coming in and out of that country for U.S. forces. Wow. As far as that. And then when I was in Afghanistan, I was part of Operation Enduring Freedom, which, both, it's one of those things, obviously when you go into it, you're away from family, but when you come back and if you get back safely, you feel like probably it was one of the most meaningful assignments you ever have in your military career. So I ended up retiring in 2011. My last study assignment was at Air University in Montgomery, Alabama at Maxwell Air Force Base. Finished up there. I was a leadership professor, taught communications, traveled around the world teaching senior financial officers enlisted how to lead and how to manage. So I had a chance to really make an impact in the Air Force, I think, on leadership and on financial management. And I really love working with students. So that was my last study assignment. So we actually ended up living in Auburn, Alabama for 10 and a half years because Montgomery's 60 miles from Auburn, right down I-85. And so my 2 sons ended up graduating from high school, from Auburn High School. They both ended up going to Auburn University. And let me tell you how God works this thing. My oldest son graduated from Auburn in 2016. He got hired out in Oak Ridge. He and my daughter-in-law, so they moved up here in 16. 2 years later, I got an opportunity to go teach at the University of Tennessee, Air Force ROTC. Taught that as a contractor for a period of time before I moved over to Heritage. And then a couple years later, my youngest son moved up here. So God moved my entire family from Auburn, Alabama, where our last study assignment in that Alabama area, to East Tennessee. And so we're very, very thankful. So we've got family, my wife and I live in Blount County. We've got my oldest son in Anderson County, and my youngest son has a farm in Morgan County. So we're about 3 counties wide as far as the Coggin family now. So we have a chance to really get involved with East Tennessee a lot more through just, being involved with my family and the things we do here. So anyway, after I retired, I spent some time over in Germany as a defense contractor, helping work with African forces, fight against terrorist groups. I was the money guy. We were working at Special Operations Command Africa. So I had a chance to do some pretty cool things there. Then they offered me a long-term opportunity, but my wife and I was like, well, we don't want to move back overseas. I didn't want to stay separated from my family for a long period of time. So I ended up coming back, and that was my first Air Force Junior RTC job. I ended up living in Auburn and working in Aberdeen, Mississippi, teaching Air Force Junior RTC and coaching football for a period of time over there. And I would basically drive over on Sunday, come back on Friday. And so I taught in an African-American school district. It was a broken school district, had been taken over by the state of Mississippi. So I had a chance to work and live in a community where I was a minority. And you know what? I was treated so good by this community. Everybody was like, you don't want to go do that. Brothers, that was some of the best experience I ever had. 3 years of working in a community where I got to feel how it is to be a minority, was loved on, taken care of while I was over there. and really enjoyed working with young folks and helping them move, hopefully, to some better opportunities beyond high school. Um, After that, I took a 3-year period. I had my own small business there in Alabama, did consulting, did a lot of work with small businesses and school districts doing human capital development. I was working on my doctorate degree in human capital development from Southern Mississippi and did that for 3 years. And then after that, that's when God started moving our family up here to East Tennessee. And again, came up here and taught at UT. And then y'all guys being heritage grads are going to appreciate this.
Oh, yeah.
Got Heritage Mountaineer H with the Air Force Wings. And so I just completed my 7th year at Heritage as the senior aerospace science instructor, Air Force J. Rodsey, and just love Blount County, love working on the Heritage campus. Our program used to be 9th through 12th grade, but about 2 years ago, this just ended our 2nd year, we started offering our program to 8th graders. So we actually teach in the middle school, Heritage Middle and Heritage High School. And I love being a part of that. I'm also part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Heritage High School and Heritage Middle.
Yeah.
We're members of Foothills Church. We've been small group leaders, and now we're small group leader coaches. So Foothills Church is a community that we're very involved in. Live right here in Royal Oaks off of 411 across from the Walmart. So it's funny, I work here really I live in District 20, but I work in District 8 a lot. So I like to think I have a good understanding of Blount County just from my day-to-day interactions. So anyway, a lot of information. That's a little bit about my background. But what I'm here really to kind of talk about today is United States independence. And what that is, that's an I for independence, United States. And if you'll see, you've got Tennessee and Blount County, got the pins. And how do we organize people who are qualified, who have the experience, who have the right character, who have the right core values to run for office? So that's going to be one of the questions I'd love for us to talk about sometime over the next period of time is how does a person ultimately end up running for public office? How are they prepared? How are they trained? Is there a career pathway that leads someone into public office? And right now, if our system is so hard broke, is it because we're not preparing for public office, or we're getting people from certain dynamics that don't do well when they're in a public office? Maybe they'd be better just staying in the career or profession that they're in because they're not faring very well when they are supposed to be servants of the people. So that's a whole conversation there is, can we in Blount County home grow authentic public leaders who are going to do the right thing? That's not going to be about the money. It's not going to be about the power. It's not going to be about the greed. It's not going to be about, hey, look at me. I need your attention on me to make me feel better about myself. We got to think about this. I've got my doctorate in human capital development. Y'all might go, well, Cog, what's human capital development? That is helping individuals reach their full potential. Education, experience, personality types. How do we help an individual, young and old, live their best life? How do we do that? So I want to pose this. How do we use human capital development to help get better people in our public offices that we're paying for? How do we do that?
Can I try to answer that?
Go for it, brother. Help me out.
So I'm thinking we don't do enough of it in school to educate how politics work in our community first and foremost, then legislatively at the state level, and then obviously on into federal. And I think we fail. I failed at home as a parent. I talked about voting and how important it was and those kinds of things, but I never talked about the quality of the opponent that I was voting for. because I didn't know them. I didn't go to meet and greets. I didn't reach out to see how things were. I didn't pay attention to people at commission meetings and what they voted for and all those kinds of stuff. And I don't like political science because I don't like career politicians, right? But I do think that we are missing a step somewhere, that I know I even got the anyway that is not educating the youth, so that when they come out, whether they go into college or they go into a career or the workforce, that they understand that local politics play probably the most important part of anything that they're going to do in their life, over anything. So that would be
do we think that's possibly by design, especially in today's time?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you this: it's not as exciting. I was never interested in politics
Oh yeah.
in school. I took building trades. That was exciting. I got to leave campus. I got to, work with my hands, that kind of thing. And then if they did teach anything about politics, it was probably so far in the past, it didn't
Yeah.
resonate with me the same way. I wish.
I know before, probably before both of our times, they actually taught civics class
Yeah.
in high schools.
Yeah.
But like I said, right before our time, all that was taken away.
No, I'm with you. My wife talked about, and she went to an all girls Catholic private school, and she used to tell she had an amazing government teacher, amazing civic teacher, who would actually get them out there when elections were going on and have them go out and see how the process works. They could pick who they wanted to help, maybe answer phones or stuff envelopes. I mean, it wasn't no pressure. You could decide. But she said she learned so much about how government operates by getting outside the classroom, getting out there and being involved with campaigns and elections. And I went to a small public school in North Mississippi, and I can tell you, we didn't do any of that. It was remember these dates, remember these names, regurgitate that information, and then that's about as far as it went. So what I would say, number one, y'all two guys, I think, and I'm taking notes, man, because we've got to figure this out together. Everything starts at home, right?
Yes.
As a teacher, I can tell when a student walks in the door a lot about what kind of family they're coming from. Are they being taught character values? Are they does someone let them know they are loved? Are they cared about? So everything starts back with the family, right?
Yes.
And it is so hard, number one, on marriages. Our church here recently had several sermons on sick marriages. What are all the things that breaks families up and destroys marriages? And there's 1,000 variables, right? There's 1,000 variables. We got to get our homes back right. We've got to get where mom and daddy are sitting around the table and they are talking to their young folks about things that matter and getting them out there volunteering in the community and letting them know that they're loved and providing that support. But man, technology, I love it and I hate it. This stuff right here can be a great tool. I love GPS. I love being able to pull data up if I need it or take pictures. But what I see is most people are walking around with this 3x3 screen right up against their face, and they're missing out on conversations with people right there in front of them. They're missing out on looking at God's beauty all around them. And their mind is being beamed from one topic to another, and it's making us, quite frankly, all ADD. I mean, it is becoming harder and harder to focus.
Yes.
And I see that in our classroom. Our young folks are struggling with focus, attention, being able to read for periods of time because this technology is just messing with their young minds and how they're being developed. So I agree with you, Brian, that if we want to develop authentic public leaders that are worthy of our vote, number one, it must be started early at home, building good character, developing a knowledge of how our government works. Because, like you said, if we ask people, talk to me about how our local Blount County government is organized, most people wouldn't be able to talk about it. I haven't fully understood all of it and I'm still learning.
Me too.
Talk to me about how the General Assembly works.
Yep.
Explain how a bill becomes a law. How does the U.S. government function? Most people, number one, have pretty much said, I don't care because I don't think they care about us. So quite frankly, I'm done with the government. I don't even want to learn about it. Or they're distracted by other things that's pulling their attention.
Or they hate it. I was raised in a house that the government was bad. No, it didn't matter what area of it, good, bad, or ugly about it. It was just bad across the board. It took me re-educating myself through experiences over the next 30 some years to realize that not all of that was exactly true. You know what I mean? So,
I mean,
but
we don't want to paint every person who's serving in public office as bad or corrupt, because there are some very, very good people serving our nation right now in all aspects. But there are also some people who are taking, whether they're taking advantage of us or doing things corrupt, they come across as corrupt. It's like they don't understand that the way they present themselves to the public forms our perception of them. And it's like some people just don't seem like they either understand it or don't quite care how we see them and how our children, more importantly, see them. I grew up at Ronald Reagan. Okay, you started the show with that great speech by Ronald Reagan, by President Reagan.
yeah,
He was one of the first presidents that I was kind of old enough to really kind of start getting my brain wrapped around. And I always had this respect for President Reagan because I felt he looked very stately. He was a great orator. He seemed to be very level-headed. And man, I long for that. I absolutely long for someone who comes across as a leader, who comes across that you can believe them, and quite frankly, that young people look up to and say, that's someone I aspire to try to follow. That's a role model. When I was teaching leadership at Air University, I had a professor or teacher of leadership. He was probably in his 80s or something. He'd been teaching there, Dr. Lester. And Dr. Lester was there for a long time. He goes, I want you to think about this. He goes, in 1776, he goes, our nation was about 2 or 3 million people. It wasn't a huge nation, but he started naming off, the Jeffersons, the Washingtons, the Franklins, the Madisons, and he just named off all these people that we consider as leaders, as we look back. And he goes, fast forward, we're about, at that time, maybe 230 million people in our nation. He goes, I bet you can't name 5 people that you would truly follow today that you feel like are good leaders that are role models for you and your family. And he was absolutely right. How could we be a small nation 250 years ago and have this bountiful harvest of leaders, and now 250 million people? And quite frankly, I struggle to find anybody that I would truly want to follow and that I would hold up to my children and say, hey, that's something for you to look at. So, gentlemen, we've got a major problem. We've got a cultural issue. Our culture, our culture is set by leadership. Leadership sets attitude. Leadership sets culture. Leaders lead, and we don't have that leadership. And that's what I'm hoping, number one, by running as a state representative. I see myself as a representative of all people. That if I'm elected to go to Nashville, that I'm representing the people. I'm not representing organizations. I'm not representing foreign influence. I'm not representing money. Because quite frankly, at this point in life, if we're not satisfied with where you are as a person and with the amount of money, you've got a major problem. You shouldn't go into elected office for money, whether it's money being paid for you or money being passed to you through other sources. If you're going into it for the money, shame on you. So number one is we got to take money off the battlefield. We've got to get campaign financing figured out. Unlimited contributions by PACs and super PACs, where organizations have more influence over the vote, over our commission than people. That's a foul.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Is that really rampant the same way in the level of race that you're running for as we seem to believe is at the federal level?
Yeah, let me tell you a story, gentlemen. And this story, I love telling it. My wife, she's heard me tell it, and she'll tell it too. We were living in Alabama, living in Lee County, Alabama, which is right there where Auburn's at. So Auburn University, Auburn, Opelika, that area. There was one of our positions came up. The person who was in it had been one of the power brokers in Montgomery, ended up finally crossed the wrong path, did somebody whatever wrong, ended up getting indicted and removed from office. So it created a special election for a House seat, an Alabama House seat, just like we have Tennessee House seat. And I got a phone call because I had visited the Lee County Republican Party, and I had visited the Democratic the party, and I just wanted to see kind of how both of those run. And anyway, long story short, I got a call from the Lee County Democratic Party, and they said, would you be interested in running for office for this seat that's been vacated? And I said, well, I'm honored that you called. I said, here's what I would like to do. I would love to meet with your state party leader and talk to them about what really is involved in running for election. I'd like for my wife to come as well. And remember, Kay does not like politics, so she went begrudgingly. But we went to a restaurant in Auburn, sat down, and the lady who comes in had been the former Secretary of State for the state of Alabama. Now, she looked like somebody's grandma. She was probably about 5 foot tall. She looked like just the sweetest little grandma you'd want to know. But here's what you need to know. Alabama is a heavy, heavy Republican state. Very heavy. Even more than Tennessee, without a doubt. But she had been Secretary of State for, I think, 2 terms, maybe 3 Secretary of State. And I'm going, my goodness. And so I started talking about integrity, service, excellence, military, talking about my Christian views, talking about this, talking about that. And she looked at me, and she had a couple of her assistants, attorneys, and so forth with her, kind of there with her. And she goes, you know what? All that sounds good. It ain't none of that going to work. She said, here's what we're going to do. Number one, we're going to send you down to meet with the Indian chief who pretty much owns all the casinos in the state of Alabama. And he's going to write you a check. And that check is for every time that vote comes across the floor in Montgomery, you're going to cast that vote in support of the casino industry. She goes, now, if you run as a Democrat, you're only going to get about a $500,000 check. If you run as a Republican, you're going to get $1 million check because Republicans are the ones that kind of ruling this. So she goes, you got to understand.
Wow.
She said, every seat in state government is bought. Let me say that again. Every seat in state government is bought. And she ain't talking about just Alabama. And I'm going, oh. And then she goes on to say, listen, here's what you're going to do. She goes, when you're over in Auburn, there's a lot of college professors and educated and this, that, and the other. You're going to talk to them about what those folks would want to hear. And when you go over to Opelika, which is more the blue-collar factory worker, blue-collar laborer, you're going to tell them what you want to hear. And she goes, you know what? It don't matter whether you keep their promise or not. It doesn't matter. You tell them what they want to hear to get their vote. All right. So now she's really digging in deep. She goes, here's another thing you're going to do. You're going to go and get these African-American pastors, and you're going to get their vote, whatever they need you to do to get their vote. And he says, they're going to bring you the vote from their congregation. And you're going to make sure to get that vote as well. And she went through all this stuff. And at the end of it, my wife, Kay, and I just said, hey, thank you so much for your time. And so we left. First thing we felt like we needed to do is go take a shower.
Right.
And
God.
my wife, Kay, turned to me and she said, I told you that's the way it is. I told you it was crooked. And I'm looking at her like, I guess you're right, honey. I guess you're right. I just, in my utopic brain, thought that surely it's not. Well, she unpacked it, and I have no doubt she told every bit the truth, because since that time, I have dug in more, researched more, and determined that's exactly the way most of all these state governments run. So it's not just national level, it is state level. Now, whether it's down to the county level, to that level, we're going to leave it up to Resolute Exposure to figure that out. But I can tell you, at state level, money is moving the pieces on the board. And so with that being said, is why am I, back last year, I looked at running for office, and at the office I was looking for, because I was really thinking, if I was going to run for office, what office could have the best impact, hopefully, on families and on so forth here in Blount County. And I was thinking, well, county mayor might be an office that might have some opportunity to make a difference. And around July of last year, I kind of made that out there on Facebook, the announcement I'm going to run for mayor. And for 2 or 3 months, I really 4 months started really looking at, okay, this is what I'm running for. And then around Christmas time, it just hit me. It's like, this just doesn't seem like it's the office I should run for, or maybe there's just no way I can make a difference inside this structure or whatever. So I basically just said, you know what, I'm not going to file the paper to run for office. So around the end of December, I said I'm not going to do it. First of the year, stuff started coming out, State of the Union address, war with Iran, some other things. And I just went, there is no way can I sit here and let our country go down the drain without fighting for our citizens and for our nation. So I went into the Blount County Election Commission and said, hey, I'm wanting to run as an independent. It looks like I can run as still file as a mayor, for the mayor's race. I'd like to do that. And they said, well, I'm sorry, you're as an independent are held to the same cutoffs as Republicans and Democrats. And I'm going, well, I guess I'm out of luck. And they go, well, hey, you can run for another office. He goes, you ever thought of run for state office? And my wife and I had talked a little bit about, well, what about a state representative position? And so I came back to her and said, well, I can't run for mayor. What do you think about state representative? And begrudgingly, she goes, hey, if that's what your heart's being led, do it. So I ended up getting my 25 signatures to get on the ballot as independent right there at the very close end of the cutoff. And so here we are now in the end of May. I don't want anybody's money. My thoughts is, if someone's asking you for money, if they've got their hand in your pocket already, they're going to keep their hand in your pocket for the rest of the time.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't come up with a better way to run for office, then let me show y'all guys something. Ever since I qualified for election, my mailbox has gotten blown up by, because when you file for election, all your information gets put out there so people can buy that, right? So, hey, buy yard signs, buy data. Here, I'm a consultant. Hey, what about this? What about? And then my email box gets full of emails every day from the campaign industrial complex, this industry that makes money off of elections. And now you go, oh, they want you to spend money. You need money to spend money. I need to ask people to give me money so I can spend money, because I don't know any way to run for office other than this right here. Bull. If you can't figure out how to do business differently already, how are we going to send you to Nashville or DC and make any changes? Because you can't even think outside the box.
That's right.
You can't even think outside the box. So, brothers, I've got a disdain for yard signs, man. You talking about a pet peeve? I hate yard signs, because every time I look at a yard sign, it reminds me someone had to pay for that yard sign. Somebody's going to look at a yard sign and vote for somebody because of a yard sign. Is that the way you make
crazy.
a decision for voting on people? So I don't like yard signs. I don't like anything that requires people to beg for money, because unless you're self-funding your own campaign, and most people don't, it means you're asking for money. And I can tell you this, nothing comes for free. And I think we all learned that there is no free lunches in this world. If I give you money, I want something. I want access. I want to be able to say I'm a kingmaker. I made you. And the bigger the money, the more strings that come with it. So number one is independence by nature should be taking no money, and should not be taking PAC money, should be saying, listen, can I do this election differently? And I was talking to Matt Snow, and Matt's kind of feeling the same way as Zach. He's like, hey, brother, I'm going to, let's use social media. My thought is, let's use social media. But hey, let's try this. How about neighbors talking to each other? How about me coming on Resolute Exposure and talking about what I stand for? How about someone calling me and invite me to come out to speak and let me talk to you? Surely that's more valuable to you than a yard sign or a piece of junk mail that shows up in your box that most of us are going to tear up, we ain't even going to look at. And I'm going to encourage folks, when you see a yard sign or you see a campaign flyer, tear it up and go, listen, that's someone who can't think outside the box. That's someone who is going to be asking for money because the machine wants the money. And we got to stop feeding the machine. So, man, this is a radical approach, guys. This is number one. Let's start it at the house. Let's get off the addiction to money. Let's start growing our own leaders. Let me ask you this, Robert. What do you think if we were hiring someone for mayor of Blount County? Talk to me about some early development. How do you grow someone to ultimately become the mayor of Blount County?
I guess you gotta start them out small at the bottom and kind of mold them as you get them up to that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're advancing up through an organization, if I take the military, you don't start out at the top. You start out at, like you said, lower levels, and you work your way through. So, I think probably some development in like being a commissioner is probably good. Before you're a commissioner, maybe you serve on some committees. Before that, are there certain career fields that might lend themselves be better feeders into public leadership? I don't know if there's a good answer on that. An entrepreneur could be a good public official.
Sure.
An educator could be a good public official. Someone working at Arconic could be a good. I don't think there's one particular feeder into it, but I think somebody needs some leadership experience. They need some followership experience. They need some team building. They need some core values.
Administrative.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think there's a lot of things, but here's what I have problems with. People separate national, state, and local politics like they're different.
Exactly.
If you belong to a political party, it's all part of the same organization. If the highest level's behaving badly, you're part of that, because if they're behaving badly, you should be doing something to correct that bad behavior if you're part of an organization, right?
Yep.
So if you're pointing at DC and saying DC's jacked up and you're part of that organization, well, do something about it. You are the closest one to the voters here in Blount County. So if you're part of a party and the national party's not representing you well, the state party's not representing you well, why aren't you doing something?
I created a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Brian both started out talking about these problems on a federal government level.
Yeah.
And then somebody made a comment to me, that's all fine and dandy, but we got the same problems locally. So why don't you start talking about that? Yeah. And as I got to looking into things, it's like you said, it's all the same. And it actually starts at the bottom, because all them guys we will see on CNN and C-SPAN and Fox and just you name it, all of them that's in power, they all started out on county commissions, mayors, stuff like that. Yeah. And over 4 or 5 decades, work their way up into the big house.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's the deal. We have a very important role. If we're here locally, we are the first level of going, this is a good leader who needs to go up through the organization, or this is a horrible leader and we dare not let them get to the state or the federal level because we're really going to be jacked up.
Yeah.
So we at the county level have a chance to really vet and hire and fire people as we see fit. And we need to take full advantage. But that means everybody's got to come out and vote. It means they need to do their homework. And I got it. We're all busy. We're being chasing 1,000 different rabbits. We're all busy. But look at your screen time, number one. How much screen time are you having? Can you give us a look? Can you give your government just a little bit of that screen time to figure out who's good candidates? Can I watch Resolute Exposure versus watching a rerun of Friends? Can I do I care about who is in office? And you should, because they're spending your money, number one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you should care like it's a personal piece of I don't know, when investment, like an investment, because when you invest in something, then you take care of it. So when you go to the polls, that's who it should be that you're doing the same thing with. Whether you spend a little bit of time investing in what the values were. You got Stacy Lynn on here, says ethics and integrity, because I think she was just adding to what you were talking about. She said focusing on the schools, I believe she was talking about, was focusing on the employability skills used in judicial rehabilitation to reduce, I guess that's what, recidivism, problem solving, critical thinking, communication, and teamwork. Those things are, they're lost. So if we were invested in it, like we were invested in a sports team, or we were invested in a favorite vehicle that we were restoring or something like that, but we did that to the people that we wanted to be in office to represent us. Because I have another issue. I don't call everybody a leader. You have to show me if you're a leader. You're a representative, you know what I mean? And not you specifically, Jeff, just overall, as a whole. So are you there to represent us, or are you there to be a leader? And that should come to fruition, or you would hope it would,
No, if we went around Blount County right now, number one is, do really people feel like we're part of Team Blount County? Would they say they feel like our county feels like a family, that our county is focused on some common values? With our cadets at Heritage, we always talk about the 3 Air Force Corps values: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. And those are the 3 Air Force Corps values. But check this out. Jed West, who has been our principal up until just recently here, he is actually going to the district level, to Blount County, to be our director of infrastructure. I was fortunate to be part of a developing core values for Heritage High School. Y'all two gentlemen know our mascot's Mountaineers, correct?
Yes.
Right. So Mountaineers climb. So CLIMB. So if you go to Heritage High School, Heritage Middle, hopefully most of our students have heard this. C, care about others. In Blount County, do we really care about each other? Or are we just individuals living within this geographic boundary that they call Blount County? But quite frankly, I don't feel like I'm part of the Blount County family. So C, care about others. L, learn with passion. Are we as Blount Countyans learning with passion at all levels? Not just our young people, but being lifelong learners. Are our representatives and leaders modeling this? Are they building a culture of that? Are they funding learning with passion? CLI, invest in excellence. Are we really investing in excellence in Blount County? I mean, are we truly investing our time, our effort, our energy to make sure our next generation and ourselves is moving forward? CLIM, model integrity. And that is a strong one right there. Every one of us must model integrity. And I know we're humans. We have all made mistakes. We have all made boo-boos. There's none of us perfect. But are we trying to be a better person and model? Are we walking our talk on a daily basis? Are we doing what we say we're going to do? And then finally, the B, CLIMB, build community. How good of a job here in Blount County are we doing to build a community? Or are we really just kind of maybe destroying community? Because I hate to say, I've coached a lot of sports, I've coached a lot of football, and a good coach can influence our community so great. But a coach who talks about nothing but about victories, and that if we beat this other team, we're going to talk smack the whole year long until the next year. Guys, we're part of Team Blount County. I don't care if you're a governor, a royal, a rebel, a mountaineer, whatever you are, we are Team Blount County, and we must come back together on that regard. And when we go to Nashville, we must go unified as Blount County, the best county in the state of Tennessee. And we must, as a representative, I take it very seriously. You represent, was there about 140,000 people here in Blount County? Somewhere in that number. That is a huge responsibility to be an ambassador for 140,000 human beings. And you better be the best representative you can be to say, hey, Blount County is a class act, because number one, starting with the person they send over here, they are class act. They are not backbiters. They're not bitter. They're not trying to play politic games. They're trying to do what's best for East Tennessee and for the state of Tennessee and our nation. That's what leadership's about. Leadership is united we stand, leaders unite, and then politicians divide.
Yes.
United we stand, divided we fall. This is basic leadership, guys. The problem is we are not growing leadership. I bring a lot of guest speakers into our middle school and our high school JROTC program. And one of my friends, Steve Hall, retired Air Force guy, or a former Air Force guy, he asked a question to our cadets: how much is leadership taught in school outside of JRTC? And pretty much everybody will say, nobody talks about leadership. No one is talking about what it takes to become a great leader or become a good leader and all that. We got to go back to teaching that, guys, starting in the house, going through the school, going to the football team. We must always be developing leaders. And that's going to be part of my goal as a state representative, is to, number one, be the best representative, that when you send me over there, you're going to know that Blount County is being represented with integrity, service, and excellence, that I'm going to be a steward for every single dollar, because there are mamas out there working hard to pay for their babies, and they need that money back in their families. There are families who can use this taxpayer dollars, and we cannot squander it. If anything, we got to put that money back in the kitchen table where the families know how they can use it. So go ahead.
Jeff, who are you running against?
I'm running against Tom Stennett, which I had never met Tom until actually a week or two ago. I was at a chamber or a blunt partnership event where they were doing a workshop, and I knew what Tom looked like. So we came up, we introduced. He's a fellow educator. He was in Maryville, I think the Maryville City Schools for quite a while. Seemed like a kind man. He was a career tech guy. I don't have anything personally against Tom, and this is not about Tom Stennett by no means. I know Karen Gertz ran for that office 2 years ago as a Democrat. I think she's running again. So there's three of us that's in a race. You've got Tom, the Republican incumbent, Karen, the Democrat, and then you got Cog, who is an independent, trying just to run to represent the people of Blount County and help make Tennessee better than I found it. That's the goal. Leave it better than you found it.
Okay, next question. Where can we find Jeff Coggin? Like, do you got a Facebook? Do you got, I don't know, you don't have to give out any information that you don't want to, but if somebody sees this, you know what I mean? And the other thing is you made it really hard, because you went your 20 minutes exactly. You probably did it perfect the way you in your mind had it set up, but to try to make it real, to go over this so we can send out a whole bunch of them, you probably made it a little more difficult for me, which is fine, because that's fine. And I just mean that jokingly, you know what but I'm saying, but being that you were military, you just sort of, you know how you talk from the bottom up? Well, you kind of did your little thing bottom up, and it was good. It was perfect. Yeah. So we're at 1 hour and 6 minutes.
Yeah. And I know people's time is valuable. So to answer all that, I'm not spending no money on no consultant who wants to build me a web. I could probably build my own web page, but here's the deal. I got this thing called Facebook, Jeff Coggin on Facebook, United States Independence on Facebook, Jeff Coggin on LinkedIn, Coggin on Instagram. Go out there, and I want to give you one more YouTube channel. Living_learning. If you really want to put yourself to sleep, there's 400 and some videos that my wife, my sons, and I have created on the farm, on road trips and all that. If you really want to know who I am, go watch some of those videos.
What's it called again? Living_what?
Living_learning. So it's,
okay.
so it's living_learning, and you'll see a picture of my wife and I, Kay and I.
Okay.
You want to know who I am? That's a pretty good snapshot of what I do when I'm not here or when I'm not at Heritage and so forth. Here's how I spend my time.
So you got an amazing resume. That is obvious to anybody that would sit down and read, from high school to where you are. So I personally want to tell you, thank you for your service. And
yes, sir.
Why would you get into politics after retiring?
Well, one thing I've learned that leadership is a lifelong endeavor. Once you put your hands, as it says in Scripture, once you put your hands on the plow, you can't look back.
That's true.
Leadership is about leaving the world better. It's about serving others. It's about just using your life, your skills, your talents to leave the world better. And my wife reminds me, it's about the next generation. That's all that really matters at the end of the day, is if we can do it right for our babies and our grandbabies in the fourth generation, we're leaving a legacy that's going to make this world better. So it's kind of the old saying, plant a tree that you will never set in its shade, but you plant it because someone will benefit from it. And that's the way we should do things. We should do things not from what I'm going to get out of it. It's what someone else. And this is why we got to be long-term. We can't be just focused on 2-year, 4-year, 6-year terms. We can't be focused on that. We've got to look at 20, 50, 100 years. What Blount County is going to look like in the year 2100. That is where my focus is what will life be like in 2100, and how can we make it better for those who will live here during that time. All right, brothers. Well, I don't want to eat up your time more. I pray I haven't talked too much, and I hope I hadn't bored you too much, but I'd like to get into some things like, my platform and how I see maybe some of that going, how we're going to protect children and other things. So we'll just let you look, and I'm standing ready to come back on these Wednesday nights. If they work good for you, they work good for me.
Well, that's fine, Jeff. We'll give you the opportunity. And again, like you said, there's other things to discuss besides the politics. You're involved in a lot of things. I would like to hear more about what you're doing with the, is it the aerospace? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir. Aerospace science. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that interests me a lot. Or as far as me, it may I don't know how much it will the community, but it's something that I think that should be shared. At least I do personally. You know what I mean? So,
I agree 100%.
Okay.
So
we're gonna play some Skillet Revolution as we send you off. What do you think?
Oh, let's do it, brother. Skillet. I've been liking Skillet for a long time. It's obviously a Christian hard rock. Back when they first come out, I love the music. I love the lyrics. This Revolution album, it's been out for a while, but for someone who is interested in change, this inspires me. And so I encourage people to listen to Skillet Revolution, the album, and see if it doesn't jazz you up to make some differences in your world. So appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
Shoot, yeah.
Jeff, we'll talk to you soon, man.
Thank you for your service, Jeff.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. God bless. Y'all be careful.
Yeah. Nice.
Future generations face to face can communicate, and we can't tell the truth from bacon. Lives and innocence wasted, laced in case with hopeless hate, with an emptiness that's what Chase said. Facing the raging seas, facing the storm in me. Am I the only one who's had enough? Darkest before the dawn, some say it's too far gone, but I
Definitely
believe that
skill
the
it.
sound to save us. Oh, sing a rebel.
I got to stop because they might hit us for
Yeah.
copyright thing because it was Skillet. So he when he told me he liked that song, I listened to it. I thought it's pretty good. So
Oh yeah.
if you're interested, yeah,
I like
that
quite a
one
few of the
particular song.
Skillet songs.
When he said it, I thought really because
Mhm.
that I just didn't see that. So I was like, I like Metallica. I didn't
Right.
hear anything back from him. It's like, so, and he probably likes Metallica. You know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah,
know,
we
but
for whom the bell tolls, man, would just sound this off for sure.
no doubt. No doubt. Especially Scrappy Dog. He likes it the same as me. I think James does too. So I will say this, the first 6 minutes of the show, whatever Facebook was doing, it didn't connect the way that it was supposed to. So I think it missed when he was talking about early life, where he, a little bit like where he came from as a kid, that type of thing. Maybe a
It
little bit
should
about,
be on there on the replay because I've got the live pulled up.
did
It's
you?
been playing the whole time. Yeah.
I just know when I saw it on here, it wasn't live, and I had to refresh it, hit the live thing again, and then it did, and there was like a 6 minute window between this
It,
this number and that number. So
it's also different on this end, like when you make it an event
yes,
versus when you don't. When you make it an event, it's like the only way I can get to it at all is I have to find that event and then get to the live video like that. Where when you don't make them events, the live video pops right up right when it starts.
I'll tell you what I did different this time. I opened up the live video on this in the event, whereas in the past I just recreated the show and didn't use the event. So maybe that was part of the
Yeah,
problem then. So I
that
won't do
might
that
be
again.
it.
We just
Yeah.
we'll promote the event with the event, but not. I actually went into where it says live, and it pulled up
Yeah.
the all the URL and everything, the stream key and all that good stuff like that. So
May make it harder for other people to get to it.
it
Like
might,
that.
yeah, it might absolutely. So okay, that's good. I'm glad to know. So,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Hey man, I like everything he's saying.
I do too. Jeff's pretty down to earth guy. Again, I don't know why he would serve 40 years and then try to find his way up to the state legislation in
He's
Nashville. I wish him.
passionate.
I
He's
guess.
really passionate,
I
and I
guess.
get that talking to him. All the times we've talked, he
Yes.
is super passionate about this.
Super great person. His wife too. She's a great lady as well.
Oh
So,
yeah. Kay is awesome.
but I guess it's all for this. And then tomorrow is caught up, and I don't know if Scrappy Dog's going to be on there with me tomorrow. I think we're talking. I think he is. He's more than welcome to get on there. You know what I mean? So, and then I guess back to Tuesday again. So hopefully Crystal gets feeling better. I talked to her today. With everything that's been going on in the house and being pregnant, she's exhausted. You know what I mean? So
I can only imagine.
I can only imagine. Yeah. So, but anyhow, get things back. Yesterday was fun though, wasn't it, man? All the good stuff there. So, but all right, man. I'll send us out of here, and I'll make some reels and stuff like that. I'm gonna make some reels from last night's show too. So get that together. Just give me a day or two, guys, and I'll have it all together. I promise. All right.
Oh, Scrappy Dog said be there or be square.
Oh gosh, that's all right. That's all right. We're gonna be there, Scrappy Dog. All right, Robert. I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, see you, brother.
Peace. All right, folks. That was it. That's Jeff Coggin, House Representative seat 20. And there's going to be more with him in the future, more about his campaign, the things he likes to do, and other interesting stuff. So, again, any other person out there, candidate-wise, that's running, we're going to be reaching out and see if we can't get you on there before, I think, early voting somewhere in July. So, with that being said, Scrappy Dog, I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody, we caught up is at 7:45. It's more national. not so much Blount County, and a whole lot of Constitution. And Scrappy Dog's on there. You might get an earful of truth. So, that being said, y'all have a good evening. Peace out.